Hello and welcome to DD India. I am Akshay Dongre and you are watching our special program Voice of the Global South, a show that brings to you stories, news, achievement and concerns of a rising aspirational world. So let us begin with today's episode. Is the war between Israel and Iran imminent? Tensions have been brewing between these two major powers of the Middle East since the conflict between Israel and Hamas broke out last year. However, the tensions have reached an all-time high after Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has said that Israel must be punished and it shall be for an alleged attack on the Iranian embassy compound in Syria. Here's a report.
Posters of various Israeli leaders emerged in Tehran with targets marked on them calling for revenge, days after an airstrike on the Iranian embassy in Syria, which killed 7 Iranian officers, including one of Iran's top soldiers, Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Zahidi, a senior commander in the Revolutionary Guard. Soon after the attack, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, vowed revenge on Israel.
This failure will definitely continue, as well as this desperate effort, like what they did in Syria. Of course, they will be slapped for this action.
Israel has not claimed responsibility for the attack. However, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel will hurt Iran to defend itself against Tehran.
For years, Iran has been working against us directly and through its proxies, and therefore Israel is working against Iran and its proxies, both defensively and offensively. We will know how to defend ourselves and we will act according to this simple principle that whoever hurts us or plans to hurt us, we will hurt them.
The unprecedented attack at the Iranian embassy compound in Damascus underlined the risk of further escalation in a conflict that has rippled across the Middle East since the onset of the Gaza war. Soon after the warning by Iranian supreme leaders threatening to retaliate, Germany's Lufthansa on April 10th suspended flight operations to and from Tehran till the 11th of April due to the current situation in the Middle East. As the tension escalates in the Middle East, nations have called for all countries in the Middle East to show restraint and prevent the region from slipping into chaos.
Сейчас же очень важно всем сохранять сдержанность с тем, чтобы не привести к полной дестабилизации обстановки в регионе, который и так не блещет стабильностью и предсказуемостью.
Meanwhile, President Joe Biden has promised Israel ironclad U.S. support amid fears that Tehran could launch reprisals for an attack that killed senior Iranians. The United Nations Security Council resolution calling for ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has completely failed, with no implementation in sight. Now the massive spillover of the conflict not only impacts the Middle East, but with the possibility of the conflict turning into a full-blown war, it threatens a much wider region.
A year on, the war in Sudan continues to rage, with the country and its neighbors experiencing one of the largest and most challenging humanitarian displacement crises in the world. The number of Sudanese forced to flee has now surpassed 8.5 million people, with 1.8 million of them having crossed borders. So as the turmoil continues in the northeast of Africa, the world continues with a conspicuous silence over the crisis.
Ill, frail and weak children in under-equipped hospitals. A common sight now in war-torn Sudan. A year of civil war in the Northeast African nation has left 700,000 children facing life-threatening malnutrition. Even before the conflict, humanitarian needs across Sudan had reached record levels. Now, an already dire situation has become catastrophic.
Our humanitarian partners estimate that in the coming weeks and months, somewhere in the region of around 222,000 children could die from malnutrition. And with the estimated WHO estimates that more than 70% of health facilities are not functional. Children who are already malnourished are at even greater risk of dying from preventable diseases. It seems utterly unfathomable that this tragedy could be allowed to happen. It keeps us all up at night and will do so for a long time.
In April 2023, a civil war erupted between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary forces for the control of the capital city Khartoum and quickly spread across to other parts of the country. 1 year on, as fighting continues, Sudan is experiencing one of the largest humanitarian crises in the world. As per the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the number of Sudanese forced to flee now has surpassed 8.5 million people, with 1.8 million of them having crossed the borders.
Me and my friend trapped in the road because army has started taking over many roads ahead and they are checking all the vehicles. When we tried to cross to our place, they started raising the gun, then we ran away.
While various attempts at ceasefire have been made through the year, it has proved to be ineffective, with the warring parties unable to come to a conclusive decision to end the fighting. In the last year, ordinary citizens have faced fear, loss and death. Livelihoods have been lost, education has been halted, and sexual and gender-based violence continues unabated. As millions flee, Sudan is seeing one of the world's largest displacement crises. Neighboring nations like South Sudan, Chad, and the Central African Republic are seeing an influx of refugees from Sudan.
Ceasefire, honestly, we're in doubt about it as citizens because I've spoken to a lot of people about it and no one really feels that they'll really keep up their ends of the bargain, both sides. As soon as it happened, as soon as 6 o'clock came, I've witnessed military helicopters and planes flying around. I think
we need more supplies to be reaching Khartoum and also Darfur. And unfortunately, under the current circumstances, it has been extremely difficult.
The conflict has had many casualties. Lives have been lost, families have been separated, and those who do manage to flee in search of food, water and shelter are facing challenges of hunger, malnutrition, and the psychological damage from witnessing the horrors of war. In Chad, 33,184 cases of moderate acute malnutrition and 16,084 cases of severe acute malnutrition have been identified among child arrivals under 5 years in the past few months.
The situation is exhausting and scary. People are getting killed by missiles. That's why we left our homes and moved to safer places. We just want to stay safe. Otherwise, you will face ugly death. The missiles blow people to bits. We left our lands and fled.
Another casualty of this conflict has been the economy of Sudan. Industries have had to cease production. Business and food stocks have been looted. The middle class is destroyed completely, and the farmers cannot tend to their crops. The World Bank in September 2023 said widespread destruction of Sudan's economic foundation has set the country's development back by several decades. In the last 1 year, Sudan and its people have faced unimaginable suffering. It is time for the world to step up and provide humanitarian aid, supplies, and effort to bring an end to the fighting in Sudan. The road to recovery will be long, but it has to start somewhere. And now the world cannot and must not choose to look away.
April 14 marks 10 years since 276 girls were kidnapped from their school in Chibok in northeastern Nigerian state of Borno. A decade since the abduction, dozens are still missing. And since the Chibok kidnappings, mass abduction by armed men, especially of school children, have become more frequent. At least 500 people were abducted in the last 3 incidents that were recorded in the month of March. As correspondent Ajay Manguth reports, families of the Chibok girls have been living with the pain and hoping to reunite with them someday soon.
Rebecca Samuel is looking at the only pictures left of her daughter Sarah, whom she last saw in 2014. Sarah was just 17 when Boko Haram kidnapped her along with 275 other girls from their school in northeastern Nigeria.
We anticipated our daughter's return within a maximum of 2 years following her abduction, but the realization that it has been 10 years weighs heavily on our hearts. Every day we pray fervently for her safe return.
Sarah's family is just one of many whose loved ones remain missing. They are worried about the government's inability to rescue them in the last decade.
Campaigns and calls for the rescue of Sarah and the remaining Chibok girls who are still missing have slowed with each passing year and have been overshadowed by Nigeria's economic challenges and worsening insecurity, as kidnappings for ransom have now become almost a daily occurrence.
The kidnapping sparked global outcry and the emergence of the Bring Back Our Girls movement, which has been pushing for their rescue. Campaigners say 10 years is too long for the girls to still be unaccounted for.
10 years on, 185 of the girls have been rescued, released, or they escaped on their own. There are 91 girls that are still in abduction. So 10 years on, I am sad. We occupied, we sat in places, we sat we did all sorts just to make sure that that issue did not go under. The fact that all the girls were not brought back is failure of government.
The previous administration of President Muhammadu Buhari had promised to rescue the girls, but failed to do so before the end of his tenure in May last year. The Bring Back Our Girls campaigners say the current government still needs to work on finding the remaining girls and ensure that their families are compensated.
The Nigerian government, under the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, still has the opportunity to say that it prioritizes the security and welfare of every Nigerian child. Second, to make a public commitment that they are going to do everything within their power and influence to make sure that all of the Chibok girls are brought back.
The administration of President Tinubu is nearing its one-year mark, but he has not said much about the Chibok girls. He has, however, directed security forces to ensure that they tackle insecurity across the country and rescue all kidnapped victims. While the world may have moved on from the Chibok kidnappings, the families of the victims say hope is what keeps them going.
The hope that we have is that as long as the girls are alive, we can meet again, no matter how long it takes.
But no one knows when that could be. Ajak Mangut in Abuja, reporting for DD India.
As the world reels from the impact of its warmest month of March on record, we take a closer look at the dire consequences unfolding in the global south. From raging wildfires consuming Venezuela to drought-stricken lands in southern Africa, millions face the harsh reality of the rapidly warming earth that threatens the world as we know it.
The world just experienced its warmest March on record, signaling the alarming rise in global temperatures. According to the European Union's Climate Change Monitoring Service, each of the last 10 months ranked as the world's hottest on record compared with the corresponding month in previous years.
So we continue to see exceptional temperatures around the world. And March is the 10th month in a row that has been the warmest month on record for that respective month. And although a record in isolation often doesn't mean very much because the climate is incredibly variable, so it has, warmer periods, cooler periods, but it's this long-term trend with exceptional records that has us very concerned.
As temperatures continue to rise globally, the global south faces intensified heat waves, prolonged droughts, and increased frequency of extreme weather events such as hurricanes and cyclones. These environmental changes have far-reaching consequences. Venezuela, a nation besieged by flames, record-breaking wildfires, rage unchecked. More than 30,000 fire points illuminated the night sky, a stark reminder of the destructive power of climate change. The infernos, fueled by man-made land-cleaning fires and exacerbated by scorching temperatures, have threatened to consume vast swathes of precious ecosystems.
Everything's indicating that we're gonna see other events of catastrophic fires, mega fires, like huge in size and height.
Across southern Africa, the earth cries out for mercy as drought tightens its grip. In Zimbabwe, Madisirie Brinu and her grandson Tinotenda bear witness to the harsh reality of food insecurity as rivers run dry and fields wither under the relentless sun. Millions face the spectre of hunger in the wake of El Nino-induced drought.
This is by far the worst drought in years. Ever since I was born, I've never seen such a drought. This year it's too much. We are going to starve. We are expecting that we would harvest and sell to the national granary, but that will not happen. The heat was just too much. We last had rains in January. By the time the rains came back, briefly, part of my crops had already wilted.
As humanitarian crisis unfolded across the region, President Emerson Mnangagwa declared Zimbabwe's drought as a national disaster, pleading for international assistance to feed the millions left destitute by failed crops and dwindling resources. Moreover, last month, Malawi and Zambia also were declared a state of disaster from the drought. In Malawi, crop theft has become a problem as food sources are drying up, and in response to the crisis, Malawi President Lazarus asked international aid agency donors to help the country avoid hunger.
This is devastating. It would have been devastating enough if this was the first disaster to befall us in recent times. But, unfortunately, in the 4 years that I have been your president, this is the fourth time I have had to declare a state of disaster. All our development partners, the international community, all relevant United Nations agencies, the World Bank, non-governmental organizations, the local private sector, members of parliament, and all those who have any resources in cash or kind to spare to avail those resources as donations to the presidential initiative to stop hunger.
The devastation due to El Nino is not just limited to Africa, it's impacting all of the global south. Colombia's capital, Bogota, is rationing water to alleviate droughts brought by the El Nino weather pattern, which has worsened the impact of the dry season and has caused reservoir levels to fall, impacting millions.
The situation is related to El Nino phenomenon and to the fact things got worse during March. We expected to have rain the last week of the month. Therefore, the levels in the dams were supposed to change. That didn't happen during the last week of March. We had one of the driest months of March in history, and logically that worsened the situation, leading us to what we are currently seeing.
Y eso obviamente agravó la situación y nos llevó a lo que estamos viendo.
From the depths of these struggles emerges a call to action, reminding the global community of its responsibility to address the disproportionate burden borne by the global south. As temperatures continue to soar and the spectre of hunger looms large, it is imperative that concerned efforts are made to tackle climate change and support those most affected by its ravages.
We will take a small break here and be back with more Global South stories on the other side. Keep watching.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibilities. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas. each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India and this voice of the Global South. Let's move on to our next stories. With the world's largest elections just round the corner, the spotlight shines brightly on the more than 220 million youth of India. The future of the country with the largest youth population in the world will be decided in the upcoming elections, and with the Indians between the age group of 18 to 29 becoming a major force in determining the nation's trajectory. So what's the youth of India has to say about these elections? Let's take a look at this report.
India, with over 969 million voters, is all prepared for the world's largest elections ever. India, with more than 50% of its population below 25 and over 65% below 35, boasts one of the world's largest youth population. More than 220 million youth voters between the age group of 18 to 29 will be a major deciding factor in this election. The youth of India are not just numbers, they are the architects of progress, holding the key to a brighter future. As active citizens, innovators and advocates, they shape policies, drive economic growth and champion social change. Let us see what the Indian youth has to say in terms of participation in the general elections and what are the expectations that they hold.
As India prepares for the 2024 general elections, it is crucial to emphasize the importance of youth participation. Let's hear some insights directly from the young population.
I think that the youth is a major constituent of India's population. So its participation is very important. And also, since the youth is the working population of India, so it needs to cope up with all the issues that the country is facing nationally as well as internationally. And since the current youth is also very educated, so it will benefit the government as well. There are three priorities for youth. One is employment, second is health, and third is education. All these three are very important, and government have worked on all these three priorities.
It is important to be the part of election because the youth needs to be very informed about each and everything. The upcoming generation, what they are willing to do and what they are trying to do, they have to be very appropriate with their concern and all. So I think it is very important for the youth to be the part of the election and to know each and every policies and rules that government is making.
The Election Commission of India has embarked on an innovative journey to engage youth through unique campaigns like Turning 18 and You Are the One on social media platforms, employing a tailored messaging strategy within the overarching theme of Chunav Ka Parv, Desh Ka Garv. Empowered through education, entrepreneurship and social initiatives, India's youth are catalysts for positive change. From environmental consciousness to women empowerment, their endeavors pave the way for a more inclusive, sustainable and prosperous nation. As torch-bearers of tomorrow, the youth of India embody hope, resilience and determination. With their energy, ideas and aspirations, they herald a future where every citizen can thrive, contributing to the nation's growth and development.
A 30-member business delegation from India has visited Uganda to explore opportunities with the hope of investing in the East African country. The group has held several meetings with the Ministry of Investment, visited agriculture research organizations, and also held a business meeting in the capital, Kampala. Here's a report by DD India correspondent Isabel Nakiria on how the two nations of the Global South are coming together to face similar challenges and explore opportunities.
Indian business people drive Uganda's economy, from tea and coffee processing to manufacturing and pharmaceuticals. Estimates show nearly 20,000 Indian citizens live and work in Uganda. Now Uganda is inviting even more Indian investors into the country.
We have all the raw materials, whether it was agricultural inputs or it is minerals. We have them here. But what we have not done is exploit our God-given resources.
Uganda exports coffee, tea, cocoa beans and dried legumes to India, but most of it goes unprocessed. Uganda is hoping to enhance its agriculture exports by adding value to its produce, and is looking into partnering with Indian farms. This Indian delegation is scouting for investment opportunities to improve trade between the two nations. Trade between Uganda and India has grown by at least 25% in the last 3 decades. And Uganda wants to tap more into the Asian countries' technological advancements in agro-industry, health and manufacturing.
Based on my discussions with officials in the Ministry of Health, officials in the Fed Bank and ICT, they see India as a logical partner in the necessary direction of moving towards digitization.
Uganda says it's offering attractive incentives to foreign investors, which include a 10-year tax holiday, free land for setting up factories, and a tax exemption on plants and machinery imported into the country. The Indian firms represented at this meeting have shown interest in setting up industries.
These B2B meetings will foster collaboration between companies, will ensure that people understand the potential that Uganda can offer to India, and I am sure that this will enhance bilateral trade between India and Uganda.
Indian citizens make up less than 1% of Uganda's population, but they contribute up to 65% of the country's tax revenue. It's expected this figure will go up, with more Indian companies opening shop in the country. Isabel Nakiria in Kampala, reporting for DD India.
And this is all we have for you in this edition of Voice of the Global South. Let us know your thoughts on the show. You can also connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching our special program. News and updates continue on DD India. Keep watching.